Lots to get to on today's. No change in the top 10.
I thought Wisconsin disappointed, though.
Yeah, because they didn't play anybody.
They didn't blow anybody out this week.
They didn't beat anybody this week because they didn't play anybody.
Besides that, everybody else pretty much took care of business. Boise's still holding on to that one first-place vote. That might be Pet 40. You know he drives that bus for Boise State. But you look at these teams. How about Arkansas, too? Extremely impressive. But I wonder where the pitfalls are going to come for some of these teams that are going to lose down the road. I mean, Stanford and Oregon get to play. LSU and Alabama get to play. Oklahoma State get to play. So we got a lot of good matchups, but all these teams are playing good football.
You know, it's funny. When I look at this top 10 list, there's really 4 teams I think are in control of their own destiny when it comes down to reaching the BCS championship game. Of course, LSU and Alabama in the SEC. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, 2 teams on a collision course at Bedlam, the final regular season game of the season. I think those are the 4 teams. If they win out, they play in the BCS National Championship game. And it'll be interesting. Lots of football to go. We talk each and every week about how every game can change the season. But what does Wisconsin... Taking a look now at the mock BCS standings through games that just took place this past weekend. What it would look like today. Alabama number 1, LSU number 2, Oklahoma number 3. And a lot of good undefeated teams rounding out the top 10. And now to talk these mock BCS standings, we bring in the guy that put these standings together, ESPN's own BCS expert, Brad Edwards. And Brad, when you put these numbers together, what was the most surprising thing to you?
Jesse, normally at this time of year, there's not much agreement between the polls and the computers because the computers are strictly looking at what happens on the field as far as wins and losses. Who did you beat? How good are they? Whereas the polls are typically looking at how talented is a team. Well, in this case, with only a 5 or 6 game sample, they agree on the top 3 teams. Not in the same order, but they all think that LSU, Oklahoma, and Alabama are the best 3. And you know what? It takes some of the fun out of the early weeks of BCS talk when you can't rip on the computers for something.
You know, you look at this list, outside of Alabama, LSU, and Oklahoma, which team is in the best position to reach the BCS National Championship?
Well, you see them there at number 4 in the mock standings. Oklahoma State, even though they're a little bit lower in the polls, I really feel like because of the strength of the Big 12, the computers love that conference. They think they're the best conference in college football this season. If they run the table, they're going to have a through-the-roof schedule strength, and I think that they'll be, you know, as high up there as anybody in the computers. And I just feel like with that final game being against Oklahoma, if the Cowboys were able to knock off the Sooners, I think they're going to get a boost in the polls. And so I feel like Oklahoma State is a team that maybe you can say controls its own destiny in the same way that Alabama, LSU, and Oklahoma do.
4 spots behind Oklahoma State sits Stanford right now at number 8. Their team obviously led by a lot of people's favorite to win the Heisman.
It's way under the radar.
Ty Hawkins with ESPNU Campus Connection. Who's the most underrated coach in college football right now, and why?
Ooh, good question.
I like the why.
Explain. I'm going to go Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State.
Teach me how to Gundy.
Teach me how to Gundy. His team's sitting right now in really, really good shape. But here's a guy in 7 years, each and every season, the Cowboys have gotten progressively better in conference play. They started 1-7, went 3-5, 4-4, 5-3, 6-2 now each of the last 2 years. Led them to their first 11-win season last year. The most impressive thing about Gundy, I think, he's had 3 different offensive coordinators and 3 different defensive coordinators. So Tim Beckman leaves him as a DC, takes the job at Toledo. Bill Young comes in. Larry Fedora was an offensive coordinator, takes the job at Southern Miss. Dana Holgerson comes in. Now Dana Holgerson, of course, calling plays at West Virginia as their head coach. Now Todd Monken's the offensive coordinator. They never drop off. I guess it's a testament to a good program when your coordinators start getting head coaching jobs, but it's never meant more losses in the column for Oklahoma State. So I think Mike Gundy, really one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated head coach right now in college
I like
football.
Gundy, too. Young, hip,
can dance.
teaching him dancing moves, all that good stuff.
Still throw the rock, too.
Let's go with a little Twitter. I'll go with a little Aaron Murray in the top. Let's go with the little Cowboys. If this is long, you have to read it for me. Go ahead, you got it, Jesse.
All the reporters are talking about OU, Bama, and LSU banging for that #1 spot. Can my boy Joseph Randall at Oklahoma State gets some love. That's from Amir Payton, by the way.
Nice, Amir. You know what? He's a really good player. And one thing that you've seen with this Oklahoma State offense, they haven't missed a beat without Dana Holgorsen, but more importantly, without Kendall Hunter.
Yeah.
This is a guy last year that 1,500 yards rushing. When everybody was coming back on this team, offensive line, wide receivers, quarterback, this was the one area that you had concern. And he's a dual guy. He can catch it. He can run it. He's got some great biceps. This guy's yoked up, too. But he's been really underrated because you talk about Blackman and you talk about Whedon all the time. But he definitely is. He's worthy of being talked about a lot.
I think the most underrated aspect of Oklahoma State's offense throughout the years has been their ability to run the football. Yeah. Whenever we think Cowboys, we think of Brandon Whedon, Justin Blackman, lighting it up, throwing it up and down the field. But for 4 seasons up until last year, they led the Big 12 in rushing. Yep. Last year, they averaged 5 yards a carry with Kendall Hunter, and you're right. They're just kind of picking up where they left off.
The running game is on the back burner, though. I mean, let's be honest.
It sets a lot of things up for the passing game as well. And give them some, some props.
Yeah, they can pass it around. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I used to like throwing it downfield. Let's get into Tweetlight right now and start getting into it. They're setting school records in virtually every passing statistic last season. Oklahoma State quarterback Brandon Whedon on fire midway through the year. This year, you see 49 passing touchdowns since the start of last year. That's more than 113 football bowl subdivision schools right now. Now, pleased to be joined via the telephone by Brandon Whedon. Brandon, I want to ask you, on the field this season, first 3 games of the year, you threw 6 interceptions. Now, in the last 2 games, no picks. You've thrown 7 touchdown passes. What have you been able to do differently?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of getting in the rhythm, getting the flow of the games. You know, early on in the year, I think I was trying to do too much, forcing some balls in some tight windows that I shouldn't have. And as a quarterback, you know this, it's you get in trouble when you do that. But I think I've really just kind of been kind of taking what defense gives us, and just kind of trying to really taking pride in protecting the football. And I know with our defense getting as many turnovers as they do, if I can protect the football, then we like our chances.
Well, you have some great weapons on offense, probably none bigger than wide receiver Justin Blackman. Many people feel you're the best quarterback-wide receiver combination in all of college football. What is it about your relationship and your chemistry that makes you guys so dangerous?
I think we've got such good communication, between series. He's such a smart receiver. He's obviously very physically gifted, but he's so smart and he understands what defenses are trying to do to us. And he's able to come over the sideline and we're able to communicate. And he may see something and I may see something. So we're on the same page. And he's a competitive guy, so he wants the ball in his hand. And I'm smart enough to know that he's that good, so I got to get it to him. So I'll tell you what, he's a great player, and he makes all the guys around him better. But I think that's the reason a lot of other guys have had a lot of catches this year, is because so many teams are focused on him, and we've got a ton of weapons on the outside, and I think a large part due to him.
Brandon, when you look at Texas, you probably don't want to watch last week's tape if you really want to get amped up when Landry Jones 300 yards passing in the first half. When you look at Texas and you think about this defense, what do you guys have to do against them to have success?
I think obviously Texas got a lot of good athletes. They fly around on the defensive side, just like last year. I think mainly just do what we do, control the tempo, which we've been able to do the last few games, and play at a fast tempo, and just execute. Take care of the football, like I was saying earlier, and just continue to get first downs. Against a good defense like that, you're not worried about getting chunk plays. Every other play. I mean, you're wanting to get first downs. Keep moving the chains and stuff like that, and we respect Texas. They got a great defense, and they got a lot of good players on that side of the ball. So it's just take care of the football and continue to keep doing what we do offensively.
All right, Brandon, I got to ask you, can you teach me how to Gundy after last week's celebration or 2 weeks ago?
I haven't worked on it. He that's been a staple in his repertoire for a while, man. He's been doing that for 4 or 5 years. I'm kind of shocked it's just not getting out. That's kind of his signature move, So he's catching a lot of grief about it, and he had fun with it, and rightfully so. It was a lot of fun after that A&M win.
Well, you got to keep the tweeting up, because we're following you and we enjoy it as we see Gundy breaking it down. But Melanie, we got a tweet from Melanie that we got to read from you. You might know this lady. I don't know if you know her or not, but who is the better cook, me or your mom? Or your mom or your wife? It's from Melanie Whedon, so I don't know if you know her or familiar with her, but are you going with Sherry or are you going with Melanie? Who's the better cook?
Man.
Who do you live with? Who do you live with? Hold on. Who do you live with? Let me impart that wisdom to you.
I gotta go with my wife, Mel. She learned from my mom, so she's cooking my dinner on Friday night for my birthday. So I gotta go with the wife on this one.
Very smart comment right there. You can tell a man wise beyond his years. Speaking of which, Brandon, big birthday coming up this Friday. I believe you're turning 28 years old. What sort of things do you have planned for that birthday? And do you ever get any grief? Do you have any nicknames from some of your teammates?
Yeah, that's one thing I'm really not looking forward to, just because it's one of those topics that I'm ready to be put to rest and never talk about again. It's just everybody's kind of beating like a dead horse. But, obviously the grandpa is kind of a staple in the locker room, and old man, those two kind of stuck with me. But I don't really have any plans, man. When after you're at this point, it's I don't really care about them as much, So also we'll be on a plane down to Texas and preparing for a big game. So, it's I'm not looking forward to it. Last year, Markel Martin got me some Depends and a cane.
Well, I'll tell you what, that old man and grandpa is slinging the rock and setting school records, so I think you're okay, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck against Texas.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Take a look at Oklahoma, Davey. Going to be some tests here at the end of the month of October, starting with Texas this weekend, then going at Missouri, taking on RG3 and Baylor. K-State playing good defense, but everybody's circling that one November 26th in Bedlam against the Sooners. Brandon Weeden is so explosive, what they've been able to do. And I guess a lot of people are going to look at this matchup this weekend against Texas, reeling a little bit after that beat down at the hands of Oklahoma. How do they respond against a very good offense with guys like Justin Blackman?
Well, Texas is still young, and we're still going to find out what they're about. But you can't let one team beat you twice, like the coaches always say. But I still think they'll pose a threat because Oklahoma State's not the greatest defense in the world. They're opportunistic, but can Texas not do this? One thing that they've done so well from a year ago to today, up until last Saturday, was take care of the football. They were one of the worst in the country a year ago, and this year they were really doing a good job, and +6 in the turnover margin. If they can take care of the football, and listen, it's going to be key to get back to running the ball. David Ash using his packages, Malcolm Brown doing those run packages, and keep Weeden and Blackman, those guys, off the field. You see what happened. A&M, go back to that game. A&M couldn't get first downs. They turned the ball over. What happens with Oklahoma State? They start just tempoing you to death, running 4,000 plays, wearing you out. So Texas's ground game has to come back and really rebound from last week when a week ago getting beat down.
Oklahoma State defensive coordinator Bill Young was watching that tape, seeing those turnovers that you just pointed out. And that's, like you said, opportunistic defense. They got 17 takeaways on the season already. That's 6th best in the country. They're going to be looking to try and strip balls, and some bad ball security by Texas quarterbacks in the pocket this past weekend. Something to look out for there. On the flip side, Oklahoma State on offense, it's funny, we just heard Brandon Weeden talk about the other wide receivers starting to get some more catches because a lot of defenses deciding to double Justin Blackman. You look at guys like Josh Cooper in the slot, Hubert Anyam on the outside as well. There's a lot of different places for Brandon Weeden to go with the football. His second year in this system, understands it like the back of his hand, and we talked about it earlier. The most, I think, underappreciated part of this offense is their ability to run it. You got Joseph Randall, Jeremy Smith. They got some guys that can keep balance. And we know that Manny Diaz, defensive coordinator from Texas, wants to bring pressure. I think there's a big advantage having a soon-to-be 28-year-old quarterback like Brandon Weeden in the pocket. He's calm, won't get flustered. And that's one thing Mike Gundy always talks about when he talks about his quarterback, is just how he's able to handle pressure situations and never get too high or too low. So this will be an interesting matchup here in what used to be the Big 12 South Division. Now, let's look at another big matchup in the Big 12 as well. Kansas State. Can you figure these guys out for a DAZN territory? The Facebook-friendly edition this week. Davey, you ready?
I'm ready, dog.
First down, hit me.
Down. Cy Moore asks, can Texas bounce back after a thrashing by Oklahoma and beat Oklahoma State?
This will be a great coaching challenge for Mac Brown to try to get his team back on track. I don't think they beat Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State too explosive on offense. I think Brandon Weeden can handle the blitz packages for Manny Diaz. I think Bill Young, the defensive coordinator, is going to watch the tape against Oklahoma. He's going to see the success they had pressuring the quarterback. He's going to dial up some pressures of his own. I think with all the youth at the key positions, at the skill positions on offense, that leads to even more turnovers. I like Oklahoma State to win this game, David.
Texas will bounce back and be more competitive than they were a week ago. This Texas team, 3 years down the road, we're going to be talking about like this Oklahoma team. They're going to be experienced. They're going to have guys at the key spots that are going to be leading their team. Right now, they're not ready for that. And you're right, the firepower that Oklahoma State has, we know they're going to score 30. Do we think Texas can score 30? They're going to have to create a bunch of turnovers. I don't see it happening, but it will be more respectable than it was a week ago.
Something to keep an eye on. Mac Brown's going to have a decision to make very soon at quarterback. You have two true freshmen playing in Case McCoy and David Ash. At some point, you have to give one guy the ball, which means the other guy will transfer. They're both very, very talented.
Play them both, they don't transfer. Keep them both.
Very curious to see how he's going to handle that situation. Let's go to second down.